This is In the Loop. I'm Christian Bryant. Let's get this out of the way. Yes, there are people in the newsroom now. Which could mean one of two things. Either they got sick of working at home, or the higher-ups got sick of my jokes about broadcasting in a newsroom of none. Anyway, we've seen a lot of tornadoes lately in places where we may not normally see them.
It is huge.
Coming this way.
This is because Tornado Alley is expanding, and millions of Americans in the Southeast, known as Dixie Alley, are now at a greater risk for tornadoes than those in the Midwest. Tornado Alley has historically been known to stretch from Texas to South Dakota, but we've started to see it broaden outside of its existing pattern. According to USA Today reporting, 20 US states saw an increase in tornado activity between 2000 and 2019 compared to data from 1980 to 1999. The lighter the color on this map, the higher up the tornadoes were on the scale. We're seeing that increase in states outside Tornado Alley, like Alabama, Kentucky, and Mississippi. Scientists aren't entirely sure why this shift is happening, but point to climate change as a possible explanation. Tornado season typically runs from March to June, but they can really happen anytime, and they are most common here in the US. Most countries see an average of 200 to 300 tornadoes a year. In the US, the number is over 1,200 a year, and that's largely because of the weather patterns here. When warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico mixes with dry air from the west, it creates the wind pattern for a tornado. It starts out spinning horizontally, but as the warm air from the Gulf continues to rise, it tilts the tube vertically, causing twisters to form. While we aren't sure why the location of these storms is expanding, Gulf waters are getting warmer all the time, which can intensify these storms. We measure tornadoes on the enhanced Fujita scale. It has 6 categories ranging from weak to catastrophic. Between 1950 to 2019, more than 60,000 tornadoes were reported, and more than half were EF1, moderate tornadoes, or stronger. An AccuWeather report predicts that this year, we could see an even bigger number of tornadoes and severe storms. As these storms increase, what can we do to prepare for them? Recently, legislation was introduced to improve tornado forecasting and warnings. This bill has been in the works for a while, but is advanced by a Senate committee. It would require the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration to evaluate its IT infrastructure to get information out to the public faster. NOAA is working to simplify how alerts are communicated to make them easier to understand, while also taking into account the socioeconomic factors that put people at risk. The goal of the new bill would make warning times go from 15 minutes to 1 hour, giving people more time to find shelter. We want to go a bit deeper into this topic, and to do that, we're bringing in Mark Skidmore from Michigan State University. Mark is a co-author of the study Double Danger in the Double Wide: Dimensions of Poverty, Housing Quality, and Tornado Impacts. Mark, thank you so much for joining us. We know extreme weather events can adversely affect low-income communities. How exactly are low-income communities more vulnerable to tornadoes specifically?
Well, every family has to make a decision about how they're going to allocate their resources to meet their basic needs, and housing is one of the biggest budget items in any household, for any household. But when you're on limited income, you have to balance it out. And manufactured homes and mobile homes are one affordable option for meeting those housing needs. But at the same time, particularly for tornadoes, especially older mobile homes, can be a much more risky environment to raise your family in. There are ways that we can help reduce that vulnerability. We can have certain types of safe structures in mobile home parks so that when a tornado comes, you've got a good, safe place to go. Of course, warning systems are important as well, and those do exist, but not in every place.
Yeah. I guess this kind of gets into the next question. I'm kind of wondering here, why is it more difficult for low-income individuals to evacuate when extreme weather events are coming?
Well, that's a really good question, and I don't know that I have the full answer to that. Again, those with limited means may not necessarily have the transportation needs that they might otherwise have. So transportation can be an issue. maybe access to information among some households may be more limited. And then, there's another layer of this that was borne out in the study, in that, single female-headed households where you have challenges that way, so that you may not have necessarily a team of two adults helping with kids, et cetera, that kind of thing. That might be another factor.
What can be done to better serve these areas?
Every community has to make a decision about its allocation of resources for local government. And so one of the measures we included in our study was spending on local issues, local spending such as zoning and public safety. And there seems to be a correlation between having a little bit more solid local public support, through government, seems to be helpful.
You mentioned advanced warning systems, safe structures. I mean, are there any other sort of very, very tangible solutions to help protect these communities in the event of extreme weather?
The question would be, well, is there a safe place for people who live in a manufactured home park or mobile home park to go? And those things can be managed through zoning. So it's just those kinds of common sense things that I think are helpful, but it requires preparation in advance.
Mark Skidmore is a professor of economics at Michigan State University and co-author of the study Double Danger in the Double Wide: Dimensions of Poverty, Housing Quality, and Tornado Impacts. Mark, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.